Hey guys, MrPokke here. So this is gonna be our last video for our early access, where I'll be going through both Sparxie and Yao Guang's zero cycles for Memory of Chaos as well as for Anomaly arbitration. So the server is gonna be coming out tomorrow, so this is gonna be slightly delayed. But in any case, I'll be looking forward to see how the performances are gonna be like. Just talking a little bit about the rotations and the gameplay. The team is gonna be the exact same, featuring Sparxie, Yao Guang, Sparkle, as well as DHPT. So I got myself 4 of the different runs, 2 for Memory of Chaos as well as 2 for Anomaly arbitration. Without further ado, let's just get it. So the calls over here is going to be E0S1 Sparxie, E0S1 Yao Guang, E0S0 Sparkle, as well as a E1S0 Tribi, with both Tribi as well as Sparkle running DDD. Now I do know for a fact that if you want to, you could consider swapping out either Sparkle or Tribi's light cone for their respective signature light cones, because Dance actually does not pull up the action value for AHA, as I've said in my guide before. So with that being established, if you want just a little bit more damage to make your Sparxie as well as Yao Guang deal more damage, which will help scale your AHA as well, then you could consider that scenario over there. Between both of these, I would say Tribi is going to be a lot more manageable, so you can kind of just see how that's going to be going over here. Whereas, as a matter of fact, I think I did in fact run Tribi for S1. I can't really remember. I think I probably did. Yeah, I think this is actually true with S1, so only Sparkle is gonna be on the E0 S0, right? So in any case, our first wave is gonna be very... Oh, wait. No. Still DDD. DDD, right? Okay, it's still gonna be on DDD, so that is gonna be that. Then Yao Guang over here is just gonna always do a basic attack. For this particular rotation, because we are gonna be running Sustainless, you do not want to activate your Sparkle's ultimate, because it's gonna be an overkill, and you will want to save your Sparkle's ultimate for the next wave. So when that's gonna be happening, you can get the instant action value advance, as well as saving the buffs, because the help of E1 Tribi, you will definitely be dealing enough damage for this particular scenario. So Sparkle is gonna pull up Sparxie. We are going to activate our Yao Guang ultimate first, which will then trigger our elation skill, as well as Tribi's follow-up attack. Once again, we do not need Sparkle's ultimate, because this is definitely going to be enough damage. For this particular portion, you can see that the chicken is gonna be dispelling the state because of the elation skill. So your focus should at this point be on the chicken, because when the chicken's turn is gonna activate, it actually will damage the entire team, or rather the allies near it. So it will help to balance out the damage a little bit more. So we're gonna be aiming the chicken over here. Let go of our Sparxie's EBA. We're just gonna let everything go. Brings back 1 skill point, 1.6 million. He's gonna do the AoE, and then he's gonna damage his team. So for this particular instance, we have 70 elation stacks, which is gonna be a lot of punchlines, extremely high damage. So this was a little bit unfortunate, because I would say it's a massive overkill for 2.4 million, which is grand total is gonna be 3.3. Ideally, you actually nerf your damage even more. So maybe we could have just saved up our Yao Guang's ultimate, but if we were to do that, we can't dispel the state from the chicken. So the chicken is going to let go of his massive attack, and we can't really afford to take that much damage since this is going to be sustainless. So it is what it is. Maybe if you want, you could consider not activating Tribi's ultimate, just so that you can get a little bit more action value for AHA anyways. But this is going to instantly get us to phase 2. We'll activate our DDD with Sparkle. And then SparxiCon is going to be able to pull one of the units over here, and that is always going to be Sparxie. And then once you are going to be able to get Sparxie, you're going to instantly break out of the domain by first activating the ultimate, dispelling their states, and then you can let go of your EBA. Now, because once you leave this field, you're going to be instantly getting back 6 skill points, you can just kind of let everything go. You're not going to be facing any skill points issue. But if you want to save a little bit, you could consider maybe leaving like 2 skill points, so that you'll always end up with 9 when she leaves, right? So you can see over here, if we save 2 skill points, we can do a little bit more. But it's going to be a little bit minor. And then we are going to be getting a free elation skill after escaping the field. And this is going to be a 3.79 million damage with full E0, except for the E1 Tribi. Because yes, E1 Tribi, the true damage does in fact scale with your AHA, which is why the damage scale is actually really strong over here. Yao Guang over here is just going to be going for the basic. Sparkle will pull us up. And then for this particular moment, you kind of want to gamble your skill point usage, because you don't really want to spend everything once Sparxie transitions phases, because if she were to transition a phase, it means that she will instantly pull back up your Sparxie again. So you kind of want to save a little bit of skill points for the next field, so they can get rid of the field domain, or rather the sub-field, as fast as possible. So we kind of need to balance out this a little bit more. I think I left with like, hopefully I didn't use everything. Oh shit. Okay, I guess I kind of just used everything, so that was definitely going to be a little bit of a misplay. Because at this point, when he chooses my Sparxie, I'm not going to have enough skill points to let go of everything. And also, yeah, global passive die a little bit here because Sparkle is going to be low HP. So if you want to reset a little bit, just hope that Sparkle is going to be maybe you put it at this position, right, all the way to the right, and give her like more defensive main stats. But that is going to be that because we are definitely not going to be getting hit again at this point. Let's go of one skill. Okay, that was actually really lucky because we got like 2 of the straight fires. So we got 5 procs over here. Let us go. Get an ultimate. And this is going to be 67 or 61. Getting the additional... Yeah, that's going to be 67 punchlines. Yeah, very, very good. This was just like... Oh my god. Honestly, this could be like a screenshot, having 67 punchlines, and then we are going to be left with 1% on health. And unfortunately, because this happened, we are going to completely waste Sparkle's entire bounce attack for the elation skill. So really, really unfortunate, but just kind of it is what it is. No matter, because we still actually deal way more than enough damage. At this point, we're definitely going to be able to get it because we're going to be getting another aha instance, as well as another bounce. We do get ourselves our Trippy DDD, 62% HP remaining, gets us the action value advance, which actually pulls up my Sparxie. But my Sparxie is definitely going to be pulling up anyways, so it's going to be fine. For this particular moment, you are going to be able to let go of Yao Guang's elation skill, or rather her ultimate for the elation skill, and then Sparxie is just pretty much going to be able to deal enough damage. Sparkle basically here can last for one more turn, so if this is not going to be enough damage, we definitely will get the kill once Sparkle pulls up Sparxie, right? But because of this over here, we actually deal way more than sufficient to make sure that your Sparxie can have enough skill points for the subfield, right? Like for this particular instance, yeah, like these situations when you enter into the field, just make sure that you always have as much skill points as possible. And if you want to leave a little bit of skill points, 2 to 1 skill point, thinking that you have enough damage, so that you would always get rid of yourself from this field as fast as you possibly can, right? So that is the main takeaway from our first MOC. All right, and this is gonna be our build over here with a 121 speed cycle with 93% crit rate chest, with the crit damage bonus. Really, really good subsets, not gonna lie. Yao Guang is gonna be 178 with a decent amount, nothing too crazy. Sparkle is gonna be 176 with DDD on the 4-piece Sequidos. I did not use Eagle 4-piece on Sparkle because now she can actually gain a little bit of energy when the allies X. So I kind of just want to get a little bit more buff, which is gonna be happening with Sequidos. And on top of that, we are gonna be running that with DDD, which means Eagle 4-piece might not be as important, right? Then our tribute is gonna be on a double DDD with the E1, and that's gonna be it. Okay, for our second Memory of Chaos, this is gonna be done against Lygus, and I would just want to say, of all the things that we're going to showcase here, Lygus is going to be the most annoying boss to try and zero cycle with Sparxie, because the damage is really, really dependent on who Lygus chooses for his energy regeneration, as well as whether or not you can clear the mobs in enough times, because you do have the bounce, and whether or not your AoE is going to be able to get rid of the mobs at a specific health pool means that there's a lot of things that are going to be left up to RNG. So for this particular boss, we are in fact going to be running our E2S1 Sparxie, E0S1 Yao Guang, E0S1 Sparkle, as well as a E0S1 DHPT. For this particular boss, for Lygus, if you are going to be running a sustainless run, I've actually tried this with sustainless when I run E1 3B. It will be very, very painful, because for this very first wave, you can see over here, there isn't really a way for my team to prevent the Black Tide spawn over here to deal an insane amount of damage to the entire setup. Which means that by the time I reach Lygus, I'm almost definitely gonna be able to die, which means that we can't really even secure the zero cycle even with a global passive. So I would say that sustain for this run, at least for the first wave, is gonna be extremely preferred, right? As of right now, we just simply cannot break the Black Tide, as well as just canceling the attack move over here. So it kind of is what it is, right? So for the first wave, it is just gonna be a little bit similar, except that we are gonna be able to showcase the rotation for E2 Sparxie to see what are the differences gonna be. So I activate my Yao Guang ultimate. Alright, we are going to in fact hold our Sparxie ultimate for the very last wave, which is going to be a very similar situation that we did back in our first Memory of Chaos. So for E2 Sparxie, you can see over here, when you get the extra turn from every single aha instance, the extra turn actually takes place before your original turn, which is very, very similar to Scylla's Resurgence or like QQ's Taos when you're going to be drawing more Taos. So you don't have to worry about activating elation skills, even if it's going to be already on Sparkle, because it just completely counts as the extra turn itself, right? So for Sparxie, overall, because you are always gonna be able to get back 1 skill point from an EBA, ideally you actually want to save up maybe 1 or even perhaps 2 skill points just so that you can actually save up a little bit for the rest of the team. So you need to manage your skill points a little bit more, right? Just manage your skill points a little bit more, because if you do Sparxie, your ultimate uptime is going to be a lot higher because of the 40 energy EBA with the additional energy regeneration on top of that, right? So this is going to be 1 million, and then it's still going to be my extra turn. Now, luckily, my ultimate is going to be almost up. So honestly, if I were to do a basic here, it's going to be fine. But I just want a little bit more punchline. So that's going to be done. Gets the DHPD going in. Gets another Sparxie ultimate. And then this black tie, I pretty much cannot stop this guy from attacking me. So it is what it is. Then for this portion, he's going to activate his death stance. So we're not going to be able to deal a lot of damage. And then this is the part, right? Yeah, so for this particular hit, if you do not have the HPD, you really just have to grind out the RNG, right? You could consider running Tribi, then maybe 1 good RNG. Most of the attacks over here only aim on like maybe Tribi or a Spargo with a higher defensive main stat. Then you could consider running Sustainless, and it might be a little bit more straightforward like us. But if it ever hits, like for example, like a Sparxie too much, or like your Spargo is just going to be too squishy, because this is a very, very painful deal over here. It will be very annoying, especially when all these, right, they're going to stack on all of the DOTs. Super, super annoying, right? So for this point, we are going to be adding our Aha instance at 51 punch lines, which will then grant my Sparxie the extra turn. The extra turn comes in, and then we are pretty much going to be going for our EBA. And then because we did activate our ultimate, we did get our trail, so we have a little bit more skill points to spare. 300,000, it doesn't look high, but it's because bro is going to be in death stance mode. So when he does activate the action very advanced, the damage will eventually come up anyways. And I still have not used my Sparxie ultimate, so it's going to be fine. I intentionally attacked the mental ray over here because I want to get this to 4 out of 4 stacks, so that I can action very advance the mental ray to activate all the DOT that's going to be coming on him, which at this point is going to be 320k. Very, very nice, right? So now it's going to go for the AoE, which is fine. My Yao Guang is actually going to just go ahead and straight up try to get rid of the mob over there because it's going to be very, very low. Sparkle pulls out my Sparxie, and then my Sparxie is just going to pretty much let go of my AoE. Gets the bounce, which a little bit overkill, but the goldfish is going to be dying. Okay, so for this particular instance, right, if the Manta Ray didn't die, you would have to let go of either your DHP ultimate or your Sparxie ultimate. Just now, it was a little bit of a misplay. I should have just aimed for the Manta Ray with Sparkle, like a basic attack, so that we can try to bring this up to as close to 4 as possible. Because when all of the goldfish dies, as well as the Manta Ray, it will take AoE damage for the black tie as well, right? So it's a little bit of a waste. So unfortunately, the mob did not die. I could have just went for the DHPD ultimate a little bit earlier, so that DHPD ultimate plus the dragon would have killed. But it is what it is. I went for the ultimate right here, hoping that it would kill, but unfortunately, it doesn't kill. So this was a little bit of a misplay. If I just used my ultimate before the dragon, I could have just gone 4 over 4, and then he would have 100% died over here. So a little bit of a wasted damage. But luckily for us, Sparxie's ultimate doesn't really do too much, because you can see it's only going to be 54k, even with death dance. The main thing is going to be the additional punch lines as well as the trail, which can always be carried forward, right? So instantly, going into the next wave, we are going to be activating our Sparkle ultimate, getting our skill points, getting the elation. All right, all this is going to be really, really good. Gets the follow-up attack. Bring this back down to 1.2 million. We are just going to straight away go in for our additional turn, so we don't really have to wait that much. I would say every single time you're going to be managing your skill points, always keep in mind the buffs that you're having for Yao Guang as well as Sparkle. So for example, right here, that was a pretty big misplay. Because unfortunately, if I were to cast Yao Guang skill, I can't cast Sparkle skill. But luckily, because I can get my ultimate, I'll get back that +1 skill point. So it's not that bad. But generally speaking, always be mindful of your skill points. Okay, Yao Guang activates the skill, gets us the ultimate, which will then give us back the additional skill point from the elation skill. Aha instance. Gets in, gets a little bit of the bounce. Alright, very good. And then we are going to be getting back into Sparkle. I basically wanted to get as much skill points, or rather punch lines, as possible. And because my EVA always gives me 1 skill point, Sparkle can always pull me back up. And the reason why I thought it was a misplay is because Sparkle would just consume it. But because of Sparkle's buff, if you use more than 3 skill points, it doesn't consume a skill point for Sparkle skill. So I could actually just still do this and keep going. And whatever that happens here, I will always bring back up enough skill points for it to happen, right? So this is going to be 1. And then Sparkle just pulls me up because I spent enough skill points. And then we are just going to be able to activate our ultimate. And then we can see how that is going to be going. Just get a little bit more skill points over here. So for this particular instance, if he actually aimed my Yao Guang, it would have given me a tremendous amount of value, right? It would have given me a tremendous amount of value. Oh, wait, no, sorry. Yeah, I just realized it's not even this one. It's the next action. It's the next action that will be giving me the action value advance. So that's that. This is gonna fly in. Aha, instance at 62. And you can see that Lygus, before his very first phase change, is already going to be at 3 HP bar, which I would say is going to be pretty nice. The unfortunate thing for Lygus is you cannot make him transform faster because you have no Mimo sprites. So generally speaking, you wouldn't really ever want to use your elation team against Lygus because you have to just wait for this thing to activate before you can actually take him down, especially after the transformation of the free ultimate energy, right? So for this point, I went for the preemptive Sparkle ultimate just in case he picks Sparkle, but I was really hoping he either pick Yao Guang or Sparkle here for the maximum value. Unfortunately, it is what it is, right? So we are just going to be having a play of it, but just know that if you get a good free ultimate, it gives you a lot higher damage output. Now, for this point, it's actually really important. You want to break Lygus before he transforms. Because if you were to break Lygus after he transforms, he is going to be too slow, and he's not going to hit you. And the action value we have for Zero Cycle against Lygus is extremely tight. So you have to break him before he transforms, so that when he actually transforms in 6 AV, he will then pull himself back in again. So that is gonna be essentially the rotation here. Gets us to 9 skill point. We are just gonna be able to let it go a little bit. Alright. And then hopefully the free ultimates that Lygus is gonna give us, it will be beneficial. Alright, and then he transforms right here. We saved our Sparkle ultimate for this phase so that we can deal with the mobs a little bit better. First cast this, and then he's gonna be able to get the minion buff, so they attack twice. And then he's gonna give us this. Unfortunately, once again, both times they did not give my free ultimate charge to Yao Guang. So if we actually got like the DHPD ultimate as well as this time the DHPD ultimate to Yao Guang instead, I think it would have been a lot better, right? So Sparkle gets the ultimate, so we're just gonna be able to get ourselves DDD first. And then DHPD is gonna be able to just chill a little bit. Alright, pulls up our Sparxie. DHPD casts his ultimate, gets the AoE damage. Now for this point, you actually want to try to clear the mobs. Because the thing with Sparxie is that her EBA is only 3 targets. It's not AoE, alright? So you want to clear the mobs as far as possible so that Lygus can actually transform, alright? So he's going to go for the double hit, which is going to be more energy, and that's fantastic. So for this particular point, it is okay to aim Lygus since these 2 minions are very low HP. So whichever one you aim, you're always going to be at 2 minions anyways. So this option is going to be fine. Goes in for the AoE as well as the bounce. Boomskis flies in for 1.5 million. He is going to be able to get the entanglement. And then Yao Guang over here is just going to be going for the basic. Double energy, which just nice gives us the Yao Guang out, which is going to be very good. And as we get the additional vulnerability debuff, especially against the new minion spawns. And then Sparxie is just going to be able to elevate the elation skill, killing all 4 mobs at the same time. Now, for this particular instance, because if you played it at 1 time speed, you could have activated this ultimate before her EBA extra turn from the E2. But it doesn't really matter anymore because there's no way that my Sparxie will get her ultimate in time, since this is pretty much going to be my last action, right? So for this point, we are just going to be able to spam this. Gets a little bit more. Alright. I guess if you spend an ultimate first, you could have gotten more trails, which would be maybe a little bit better. Now then, this bounce goes in. And we are going to be at 9 out of 10. So if this dragon did not kill 9 out of 10, it's a reset angle. Alright, this is going to be a reset angle. So it hits us twice. And I think, but really unfortunate that he didn't manage to hit Sparkle over here. But it is what it is. We still have a little bit left. This is going to be a 10 out of 10, which means he is finally going to transform. The unfortunate thing is, when he transformed, it pulls up my Sparkle, which then pulls up my Sparxie. So at this point, you have to go all in. But because we lacked that little bit of damage, we are actually a little bit off from a 0 cycle, which technically just means at this particular instance, it is gonna be a Western 0 cycle. Now, I will say this exact same team setup it is gonna be 100% doable. But frankly speaking, if you guys know what's been going on for the entire week, I really struggle to find a time to grind for that 0 cycle. Eventually having an RNG where Yao Guang gets both of the free energy ultimates. But it is what it is. But just know that this team will definitely be able to work against Lygus. Really annoying though. So if you guys ever want to run an elation team, at least the first half is going to be a much better scenario, right? So that is actually going to be our quote-unquote Western 0 cycle, right? If you want to call him Mr. Tourist, sure, it is what it is. Now, for our next 0 cycle is actually gonna be in our Anomaly Arbitration King in Check Sustainless with E2S1 Sparxie, E2S1 Yao Guang, E0S0 Sparkle, as well as a E1S0 Tribute. So I basically added 2 more costs for Yao Guang over here, but I will be completely honest, the Yao Guang eidolons probably would not matter because you're gonna be able to see just how quickly we actually get this 0 cycle running the elation team, right? So if you wanted to just save on the cost, you could just consider not getting any of these. I think even in a sustainless run, a 0 cycle with like full E0 might be extremely possible just because you can see the impact. Now, for the first thing I want to take a note is that our Sparkle actually casts ultimate first before Yao Guang, because when Anomaly Arbitration, you do not want to save your ultimates. You want to deal as much damage as quickly as possible because the action value is going to be transferring between waves, right? So for this point, we're going to activate our ultimate for Yao Guang first. Gets the additional resolution, or rather the tribute ultimate. So this has to happen before Aha. So you can still get Tribute's E1 field and your Aha will deal a lot more damage, or rather your elation skill will do a lot more damage. Then Yao Guang is gonna be going over here to apply the debuffs, and then Sparxie goes in for the AoE 2.2 million with the additional follow-up from the buff, which is gonna be quite a decent chunk. Gets the additional dispel, and then now our just goal is just gonna be slamming everything, right? You don't have to stall, you don't have to wait, right? Every single time you want to play, you can just let go. Now, for this particular instance, whether or not you went all 9 skill points or you save it for like the other half, it doesn't really matter as much because you are just going to be spending it anyways, right? So this is going to be going back in. I did not get the full skill point because I was a little bit iffy in case I needed more skill points, but at this point, I definitely did not need more skill points anyways, right? So we're just going to be able to go in for our ultimate, and we slam this back down for 706k because I calculated, or rather not calculated, but I kind of guesstimated roughly how many skill points I need for my punchline. If you're not sure because your first time trying and you don't want to worry about it, you could just spam everything. At worst, you don't have enough skill points for the second wave, but at best, you can kind of just still guarantee yourself the kill, which gives you a little bit more action value. Because at the end of the day, this doesn't matter since we are getting this 0 cycle at like a lot of leeway over here, right? So Tribute is now going to be getting the follow-up attack. This is going to be giving us the normal basic. Elation instance is going to be activating. So we get back 1 skill point, as well as the elation skill, which means it's an extra turn for our Sparxie, right? So it's going to be 4 million damage. So for this point, I only want to just, okay. Whereas Beverly here is going to be a little bit of a misplay because I would have saved up more skill points just for the field, right? But I saved up a little bit. I guess 6 is still okay. So if I wanted to, I could just save up all the way to 9. So I can just let everything go for this field and then ideally get this immediately so that I can leave the domain, right? So over here, we try to go for a little bit more of the, okay. At this point, I don't really know why I didn't went all in. Maybe I was drunk. Maybe I just wasn't waiting for the rest pen. But I think if I had 9 skill points back then, I would have instantly cleared the field and she would have instantly spammed me out, which would have saved me a lot of skill points. But in any case, it is what it is. We are going to be able to get ourselves the additional rest pen. Sparxie is going to pull out my Sparkle, or our Sparkle is going to pull out my Sparxie. And then this is definitely going to be the kill. But I could have just done it a little bit better, right? Like no half measures and just kind of just go for it. You can always let go all in because once she spits us out, we get back 6 skill points, gets our ultimate back in, and then this is going to trigger the Aha instance, which should be able to get us a kill, especially with E2 Yao Guang as well as the E1 Tribute, right? So this bounce gives a grand total of 3 million damage, which is going to be really nice. Bring us into phase 2, and you can see we are still at 183 action value remaining, which feels really strange because generally for like our older Anomaly Arbitration, by the time you reach the final phase, for example, Agla, you should be at around like 180. 183 is usually the time where you see like phase 2, which I guess this is technically phase 2. But against 3 phase bosses, this is honestly a lot more manageable than what I've seen. Spargo actually got dangerously low over here, so it's gonna be a little bit scary. If your RNG is not gonna be that good, you definitely need to reset a little bit more. For this point, like I mentioned, we just go all in, right? You don't really want to save. Just keep going, and then this is gonna be able to get ourselves a big booms for 2 million. Gets us the res pen over here. Oh, but unfortunately, I need to cast my skill, so it is what it is. Spargo pulls us up. Triby is gonna be going for the skill as well. And then hopefully this is not gonna kill everyone. Okay, I mean, I do have Glow Passive, so it's gonna be fine. Yep. So okay, at that particular instance, Glow Passive getting triggered is almost inevitable, unless Triby takes a little bit more of a hit, right? But luckily for us, we still clear out the 0%, bringing us to the subfield, and the rest of the match is gonna be extremely self-explanatory, as Sparxie slams the ultimate, gets us the additional skill to slam it into our SparxiCon. You don't really have to wait. Got a lot of unreal or rather straight fires as well. 16 stacks, booms in 3%, and then Aha is going to be getting the 0 cycle out of very, very respectable 149 action value for our Elation team. So this is going to be the build that I used for our Anomaly arbitration. Frankly speaking, the builds did not change whatsoever. The only thing I added is basically the E2 Sparkle, or rather Sparxie, just from the previous Lygus, as well as the E2 Yao Guang. Everything else is going to be the exact same. Didn't change the gear with the same E1 as 0 Triby. Now this is pretty much going to be our last video, and that is going to be Anomaly arbitration Plight mode 0 cycle with a sustain running a double E6 Yao Guang as well as Sparxie. So this is not meant relatable. I just kind of want to show you guys how does it look like to 0 cycle our Plight mode, which I think compared to other Plight modes, at least when we are going to be using this elation mechanic, it has been extremely straightforward. The fight itself, frankly speaking, just doesn't change. The rotations between the E0, E2s, as well as E6s, the only big change is going to be E2 Sparxie, where you get the additional 40 times 1.194% energy to get your ultimate a little bit faster. But everything else so far is just pretty much going to be seeing more damage, right? You're just going to be trading more items for more damage, which means they are going to be offset by the additional, endgame Plight mode, different units having higher HP pool. So you wouldn't really tell that big of a difference whether you're going to be running items or not, because we are literally going to be in the Plight mode. You can see over here, the rotation is going to be the exact same, but the HP pool compared to just now when we did Anomaly arbitration is also very similar, right? Which is going to be quite interesting. If we can, I will want to save up my Aha for next wave, but I don't think that is going to be possible. So we are going to be using this Aha Elation, the Elation instance, to get us the kill on the guy over here. 81 stacks. Actually, it might not even kill, because it is Plight mode at the end of the day. 2.4. What the? Oh, okay. 13 million is kind of crazy. So that is going to be that 17 million with the additional elation skill going for the second wave. For this option here, I would definitely conserve my skill points, right? If I had to rewind this, I would save my skill points so that I can do them on the subfield instead. But unfortunately, I didn't, so gonna be a little bit of a misplay. So once the bro brings me back into the start field, I don't have enough skill points to basically let go of everything, which means my time in the start field is going to be a little bit longer, right? So just be a little bit more wary. We are going to let this go. Spargo is going to pull us up. Yao Guang is going to give us the res pen buff as well as the debuff. Alright, hit Spargo is going to be completely fine. Little bit of action value delay is also going to be fine. Gets up the ultimate. And then our elation skill should definitely kill. As a matter of fact, for that particular ultimate, if you wanted to, you could have just saved the ultimate after the elation skill if you wanted to gamble. So after the elation skill, you cast ultimate on SparxiCon itself so that you can get the highest value, right? Because at this point, we get our Yao Guang out. 4% is extremely wasteful for an otherwise 9 billion Sparxie ultimate, right? Now we do have 12 over here, so that is gonna be going back into the usual things. So we get back all of our skill points. We can spam this. Very good. A lot of skill points. A lot of stacks for Aha at 16 or rather 18%. Gets the ultimate or rather elation skill Yao Guang, and then we're gonna see the bounce over here for 11 million once again. Very nice for 14. And then Spargo will then finally cast ultimate. But at this point, because we activated it before the extra turn began, we are actually able to utilize the additional skill points, which is going to be having the highest amount of value for Sparxie right now. 23% HP, Spargo pulls up Sparxie. We are a little bit low on skill points, but at least I do have my ultimate, so that is going to be nice. Gets the ultimate in 14%. Let's see if this is going to be killing it with DHPD's Dragon, which I think might be a little bit sus. We might need to kind of use Yao Guang's ultimate here. So, yeah, okay, we're definitely needing Yao Guang's ultimate. So we cast our skill, get our ultimate, then hope that the bounce from Sparxie actually do not get wasted on the very first phase. Which, at this point, I don't think it looks like it's happening. Okay, so this is very, very good, right? So now you can actually let go of Sparxie's bounce all the way into phase 2 without wasting any damage. Even though it is not in the sub, you can see we already dealt a grand total of 23% max HP, and we are still at 144 AV, which I think is going to be very, very nice. This is at this point because I have so low HP, I should have just saved my tree a little bit and did all of my skill point attacks in the subfield right here, right? But it is what it is. Brings us into the subfield. We have 3 skill points, so we kind of just have to spend it. Alright, just spend it all so that my Sparkle's next skill is going to be able to get ourselves a refund. 82%. Goes for the AoE, but because we're running DHPD, the sustain should not be a problem. Brings up Sparxie into an ultimate, so we are going to be having 7 skill points. And then we can then let go of everything in the middle. Now, remember to always target your enemies with your EBA because it is a destruction targeting, right? It's not evolution, and sometimes the AI is going to be a little bit silly because they choose the lowest target instead of the boss itself. Always getting res pen with our allies if it's going to be single target. Okay, Dragon is going to go in. SparxiCon is going to go off for the little bit of a buff over here. And then finally, with 123% stacks of elation, this should be way more than enough stacks to get us the clear over here. 37% bounce in, and this is going to be 0%. Throws us out, and then the rest of the play, it is going to be pretty much done. Now, the unfortunate thing is we need our Sparkle to be that little bit faster so that I can get myself the aha skill a little bit more, right? So this is going to be 8 million into a follow-up skill, which is going to be 2.5, and then finally into 11 million with the MOC buff for 1.1. So 1.15 million damage, and we get back our skill points again, spend them more like a QQ, 14% health, gets the Dragon back down, and then once Sparkle pulls out my Sparxie, we can then cast our ultimate, we can then cast our skill points, and then the fight is pretty much going to be over from there. As a matter of fact, I was a little bit scared, because this is technically my last action, kind of. But we do have an ultimate, 2%. So let's hope that this hits. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will be our Plight mode 0 cycle for the next upcoming Anomaly arbitration. Which I would say out of all the Plight 0 cycles, this was actually on my very, very first try. It was super straightforward, but then again, it is with unreadable cost. So with that, we are going to be coming to the end of our verse 4.0 early access, as well as this being my last video for the 0 cycles. Looking forward to how this team is going to be turning out. Unfortunately, Sparxie is going to have to wait a while. We'll play Yao Guang first and play the story, and everything else extremely busy. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Word of the day is going to be dance. Join Twitch, join Discord, join the use code POKE. Use code POKE. All the best for y'all. See you guys next time. Take care.